Hello and welcome. It's 10 a.m. on Monday, the 1st of December. You're tuned in to our mid-morning newscast here on Arirang TV. Thanks ever so much for tuning in on this very snowy morning here in the Korean capital. I'm Mark Broome. Let's take a look at what's making the headlines. Reaching compromises on a variety of hotly debated issues, Korea's rival parties grant themselves 2 more days to pass next year's budget bill. Korea launches a market for direct trading between the Korean won and China's yuan. It's expected to speed up and cut the costs of currency conversion. Plus, more unrest in Hong Kong as thousands of pro-democracy activists clash with police as they try to surround government headquarters. But we start at Korea's National Assembly, where, after sorting out the majority of contentious issues hampering passage of next year's budget, Korea's main parties agreed on Sunday to extend the budget review period with the hope of passing it by the legal deadline of December 2nd, which is Tuesday. Our Jae-sun starts us off.
Less than 24 hours before hitting the legal deadline for reviewing next year's budget bill, Korea's 2 main rival parties agreed to give themselves until December 2nd to finalize negotiations. According to a new law, the parliament is legally bound to pass the 2015 budget by Tuesday, and after the review deadline of midnight Sunday, the government's $340 billion budget plan will be submitted for a vote. Both the ruling and opposition parties are aiming to pass the bipartisan bill on Tuesday while getting rid of the government version of the budget. If the parties manage to do this, it will be the first time in 12 years the parliament will have passed the budget by the legal deadline. On Sunday, the Budget Committee explained there just wasn't enough time for the parties to finalize the bill. The opposition party boycotted the parliament last week over the central government's cost-sharing plan for a free childcare program and a proposed cigarette price increase, as well as the party's own demand to scale back corporate tax reductions. While the 2 sides have set aside the major points of contention, they still need to reach agreement on the government's economic revitalization plan and welfare bills. Meanwhile, the parties are in a dispute over tax-related bills to be attached to the budget, which will also be put to a vote on Tuesday with or without bipartisan agreement. Choi-Yu-sun, Arirang News.
Now, it's a big day in regional finance as a direct trading market for the Korean won and the Chinese yuan has opened this morning. The market launched roughly 1 hour ago, following a successful test run of the transaction system just last week. The new trading market is expected to drastically cut transaction costs for exchanging the 2 currencies. Up until now, local banks had to convert their Korean won into US dollars at home and change them again into the yuan in Hong Kong. Korean government officials also expect the market to boost efforts in developing a hub for offshore yuan transactions. The market will be open every weekday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. with 12 banks, including Shinhan, Uri and 5 foreign banks in Korea taking part in this market. The opening comes following an agreement reached in July between Korean President Park Geun-hye and her Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping. The Korean labour market is about to see a major shift in the coming years, and it's not an overly positive one. Without some drastic measures to turn things around, it looks like there's going to be A, a projected labour shortage, and B, an increase in low-wage jobs in the future. Our Kim Jonguns tells us more.
There's going to be a labor shortage early in the next decade, with the number of available jobs surpassing the number of those seeking work. This will be the result of a sharp decline in the number of job seekers who are part of the baby boom generation as they exit the labor market. This, according to the Hyundai Research Institute in a new report. It's referring to people born right after the Korean War between 1955 and 1963. The group numbers more than 7 million people, or nearly 15% of the total population. The report also says there'll be a sharp increase in the number of low-wage, low-skilled jobs. It projects Korea will have high employment elasticity, which means more people will be offered jobs despite small increases in industrial growth. Employment elasticity measures increases in employment when the economy grows by 1%. The report says Korea's employment elasticity will shoot up to 0.6 points in this decade from 0.2 points in the late 2000s. The institute also projects there'll be a jump in the number of students who work while they're in school, as well as job increases in the service sector. The report suggests the need for policies to resolve the projected labor shortage, and in particular, policies designed to help people balance work and family and work and school, in addition to increasing the number of temporary positions available to workers heading into retirement. Kim Jonguns, Arirang News.
Turning now to news that former First Lady Lee Hee-ho has postponed her scheduled visit to North Korea to next spring at the earliest. South Korea's Yonhap News reports that doctors have advised the 93-year-old widow of late President Kim Dae-jung to delay her trip due to concerns about her health amid this cold snap we are feeling at the moment. Both Koreas recently gave the visit the green light, but the exact timing hadn't been confirmed. There had been some concern in South Korea that a trip in the coming days could have been used for political purposes by North Korea, as Pyongyang will mark the third anniversary of former leader Kim Jong-il's death in mid-December. Meeting with President Park Geun-hye in October, as you can see there, the former First Lady expressed her wish to visit Pyongyang so she could donate hand-knitted hats to North Korean children. A North Korean defector claims North Korean leader Kim Jonguns' aunt, Kim Kyung-hee, died of a stroke during a heated argument with her nephew over the execution of her husband, Jang Song-taek. CNN reports that Kang Myung-do, who is the son-in-law to an ex-prime minister in North Korea, said Kim Kyung-hee suffered the stroke while she was arguing on the phone with Kim Jong-un a matter of days after Jang's execution. The defector said she was taken to hospital, but later died. North Korea experts say that while the claims could be true, they are almost impossible to confirm. Kim Kyung-hee has not been seen in public since Jang's execution late last year, sparking wild rumors about possible ill health or even her death. Now, a test-run coal shipment from Russia arrived in South Korea via North Korea over the weekend, and this marks a significant breakthrough after years of limited economic exchanges between the two Koreas. And it's hoped this rare movement of trade could help be the initial step towards improved economic relations and all-round friendlier ties. Now, Son Jung-in reports.
Some 40,000 tons of coal extracted in Siberia arrived in the country last weekend through a North Korean port. The first ever shipment is part of a trilateral project undertaken by South Korea, North Korea, and Russia to transport raw materials via the Trans-Siberian Railway from Russia's Kazan to North Korea's Najin port and then to the South Korean port of Pohang. Both Pyongyang and Moscow are known to have been highly cooperative throughout the entire procedure. The South Korean delegation team, who visited Najin to inspect facilities and do some last-minute checkups, say they were well received by North Korean officials. Experts say an official deal on transporting coal regularly through the route could spark a revival of other collaborative plans between the two Koreas. The shipment is considered all the more significant as the South cut all commercial links with the North after the sinking of a South Korean warship in 2010, leaving the inter-Korean Kaesong Industrial Complex as the only economic connection. However, due to the unstable political situation on the peninsula, there are concerns the project could run into some unexpected problems down the road. The South Korean government and the consortium members, Korail, POSCO, and Hyundai Merchant Marine, are holding further consultations with Russia in a bid to lessen the possible risks. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, in just about 10 days' time, leaders from the ASEAN member countries will be in South Korea for a very special summit. It's being dubbed the most important diplomatic event for Korea this year and expected to take Korea's ties with ASEAN hopefully to the next level. For a look at the current state of relations between Korea and ASEAN, our Hwang Sang-hee reports.
Since establishing dialogue relations in 1989, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations has become one of South Korea's most important partners. Trade volume with ASEAN jumped 16-fold from some $8 billion in 1989 to $135 billion last year, making ASEAN Korea's second-largest trade partner. The region is also the #3 investment destination for Korean businesses, after the United States and China. Korea invested $3.8 billion in ASEAN, accounting for over 12% of Korea's total overseas investment last year. Korean builders received the second most construction orders from ASEAN last year, worth more than $14 billion. Ties are not just limited to economic cooperation either. ASEAN is the top tourist destination for Koreans, with some 5 million out of the 14 million outbound Koreans heading to the bloc last year. Korea received nearly 1.6 million visitors from ASEAN countries, which was the third largest number after China and Japan. That number is expected to grow, thanks to Southeast Asia's love for Hallyu, or the Korean wave. Some 330,000 people from ASEAN countries live in Korea, making up a quarter of foreign population in the country. These include workers, married migrants, and students contributing to Korea's economic development and to its transition into a mature, multicultural society. And the Korea-ASEAN Commemorative Summit, set to take place in Busan on December 11th and 12th, is expected to further boost their strategic relations. 방상희, 아리랑 뉴스.
Now, in the global news this hour, we're following the pro-democracy protests happening in Hong Kong that have once again heated up near the heart of the financial district. Over there, for the details, we connect to Eunice Kim at the News Centre. Good morning, Eunice.
Good morning to you.
So these on and off clashes continue as we speak on this Monday morning in an area that has been, up until the last couple of days, relatively calm for weeks.
Right. We saw most of the conflict struggle between Hong Kong police and demonstrators confined to the working class district of Mong Kok last week, where at least 28 people were arrested over the weekend. But earlier this Monday morning, student leader Alex Chow told reporters his group was moving in on government buildings to propel the government to face the public.
The action held tonight is to generate more pressure to the government because you could see that, well, the government is adopting tactics to avoid responding people's opinion on the political reform.
Police have cleared off Lung Wo Road for now, but starting Sunday night into early Monday, that student-led protest movement mobilized demonstrators to occupy the major Admiralty thoroughfare that had been cleared by police more than a month ago. Demonstrators chanted "Surround government headquarters" and open the road, clashing with police who pushed back with pepper spray and batons. A conflict not confined to Hong Kong's borders, Beijing has refused to make any concessions to the movement calling for free elections of the 2017 chief executive polls. Meanwhile, the Chinese embassy apparently has informed a group of British lawmakers that they will be blocked from entering Hong Kong if the trip was to probe the ongoing democracy tensions.
And Eunice, these protests have been going on since late September, so for more than 2 months now. And the gridlock and all-round unrest must be having a very heavy financial impact on Hong Kong, no?
Well, we don't have any firm numbers as of yet, but we do know that the Hong Kong government revised its outlook to a 2.2% economic growth as compared to the 3 to 4% growth it saw in the start of this year. Reuters is also reporting October retail sales is expected to take a hit, citing 3 analysts who all forecast year-on-year falls of anywhere between 0.3 and 4.4%. You'll remember the start of October was China's Golden Week, an important shopping season for retailers, and also when those protests really expanded, with protests swelling to more than 100,000 people at its peak.
And Eunice, today is December 1st, and that means it's World AIDS Day, and people around the world are raising awareness of this disease that is still, all these many years later, still without a cure.
Without a cure, but preventable. And that's why the theme to this year's World AIDS Day is Focus, Partner, Achieve an AIDS-Free Generation. From Argentina to Cambodia, people around the world will be spreading the message of prevention and treatment. And ahead of Monday, in India, students plastered walls with posters and symbolic red ribbons to raise awareness in the country that accounts for more than half of all AIDS-related deaths in the Asia-Pacific region. And moving on to South Africa, activists in a township outside Johannesburg say the government needs to do more to educate and prevent AIDS from spreading. South Africa has the highest number of HIV/AIDS cases in the world. And as we usher in the 26th annual World AIDS Day, first established in 1988, Mark, here are a couple of statistics for you. In the years between 1981 and 2012, HIV has killed 36 million people globally, but more than 35 million people are living with the disease.
Well, we certainly hope that education will lead to a world free of AIDS one day soon. Thanks, Eunice. Solar power is the biggest and fastest growing sector in the renewable energy market, as it's expected to become an affordable and feasible alternative to fossil fuels, which are polluting our atmosphere pretty badly. Korea is making increased use of solar power, but is Korea going to be a global player in this, what should be a very lucrative market? For this week's Industry Insight, here's our Song Ji-sun.
This is the biggest solar power plant in the capital that started operating this summer. It's equivalent to 13 football fields with a capacity of 5.6 megawatts, enough for 2,200 households a year. Solar energy is rising as the next generation of renewable energy here in Korea, accounting for 98% of all renewable power plants built in the first half this year.
This solar panel system has been set up on the roof of this water filtering plant, and we have completed a couple of other solar power facilities like this for the Seoul Metropolitan Government. It's fully operational even on cloudy days and only takes 3 months to install and operate.
The market for these solar facilities is booming in Korea, with most being built by government or public agencies. Over the past decade, solar energy has emerged as the world's biggest source of renewable energy, overtaking wind power. Last year alone, it created half of total electricity generated from renewable energy sources. This prospective market is forecast to expand by 10% each year by 2030, with China and India likely accounting for half of the global demand. By then, the cost of generating electricity from solar power is expected to reach similar levels to burning fossil fuel, meaning it could become more widespread without the support of government subsidies, as it mostly depends on that at the moment. The biggest competition in the industry comes from China, which produces 80% of the global demand at prices 20 to 30% cheaper than Korea.
Backed by government support, Chinese companies have been producing well over the market demand, with half of the world's top 10 solar panel producers based in China. It's not easy to counter them in terms of price, so Korean firms must improve their cost efficiency, at the same time revving up quality and technology.
Around 40 players are in Korea's solar power generating market, with small and mid-sized companies focusing on solar cells or modules, while large conglomerates aim to tackle the global market by equipping a complete chain of production to service.
We've established a value chain from solar component production to system maintenance, and we aim to expand the solar power generation infrastructure to even include households.
Industry experts point out that it's crucial that the government takes steps to speed up the growth of domestic solar power market. To expand the economy of scale and improve profitability, the government must ease regulations concerning installation. They also point out the government must provide financial aid to companies seeking projects overseas to help them win more share of the world's non-fossil fuel energy market. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off in Incheon months after the Asian Games took place. Now, with so much money invested in the event, the huge deficit is a concern. And now there are talks about selling the stadiums. With the city of Incheon investing over 1.7 trillion won, or roughly 1.5 billion US dollars on the 17 Asian Games infrastructures, the city is looking at some major debt problems. And while there's reports that the city is looking into selling the infrastructures to make some of the deficit, and while talks of Incheon possibly looking into hosting the 2028 Summer Games, one official stated that it's nearly impossible with the current financial status. And now shifting over to Japan, where the Hanshin Tigers are getting worried about losing pitcher Oh Seung-hwan to the major leagues despite having another year left in his contract. The 32-year-old closer, who finished his first year in Japan at the most saves in the league and even finished fourth in the MVP voting. And now the Hanshin Tigers are worried about him leaving to the States, with one official stating that they're expecting more major league scouts set to come to watch him pitch. Although major league teams have shown interest in Oh Seung-hwan in the past, he opted to play in Japan before making the big move to the majors. Staying in baseball, but back here in the nation where KBO free agents are getting richer and richer with each year. But a recent signing over the weekend proves sometimes it's not always about the money. The now former Lotte Giants lefty Chang Won-jun recently rejected a deal worth 8.8 billion won, or roughly 7.9 million US dollars, to stay with the Giants, and was even rumored to be getting a 10 billion won deal, or nearly 9 million US dollars, from the Hanwha Eagles. But over the weekend, Chang Won-jun signed a 4-year deal worth 8.4 billion won, or roughly $7.5 million with the Doosan Bears. But the latest Doosan Bears signing stated in an interview that he felt there was a better future ahead of him with the Seoul-based team, hinting there's a better chance at winning a championship with his new team. Now, while one player is looking forward to his new future with the new team, the 2014 K-League Classic season officially ended on Sunday with all 38 matches being played. Now, with the Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors winning the league title weeks before and Suwon Samsung Blue Wings clinching second place with a large margin, FC Seoul squeezed in a 2-1 come-from-behind victory over Jeju United on Sunday to clinch the final ACL ticket and a chance at the ACL playoffs. Meanwhile, the two teams getting relegated this season will be Gyeongnam FC and Sangju Sangmu, the military club, as they finished 11th and 12th, respectively. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. Well, it's a snowy day here in Seoul. Snow flurries started to fall about 3 hours ago, turning to a snowfall and still sweeping in the capital areas. Now, accumulation of less than 1 centimeter is expected for the capital region, while up to 10 centimeters are expected for the Jeollado provinces into tomorrow. So it's snowy and cold first day of December. The single-digit temperatures feel like sub-zero due to strong gusty winds, and there will be no big difference or any difference in our numbers today, as the low in daytime high in Seoul just remains at 3, while Daegu and Gwangju peak at 7 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island will be getting up to 9, while Daejeon and Dokdo sees highs of 4 and 5 later in the day. But actually, today is the mildest day of the week, because tomorrow the temperature will plummet to -7 here in Seoul. And as we can see, the low will stay on the freezing side, and even highs will be on the cold side. So be sure to stay bundled to stay warm. Now that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now. Plenty more stories online, and we'll be back with our next newscast at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.